and welcome back to my library. I'm Miss Danny, and today, I can't believe it's Wednesday already again, and we are going to continue the Magic Treehouse, number 1, Dinosaurs Before Dark, by Maryy Osborne. So, if you remember, last time we read chapters 1 and 2, so let's jump into chapter 3, titled, Where is Here? Jack opened his eyes. Sunlight slanted through the window. The tree was still high up in a tree. But it wasn't the same tree. Where are we? Said Annie. She and Jack looked out the window. The pterodon was soaring through the sky. The ground was covered with ferns and tall grass. There was a winding stream, a sloping hill, and volcanoes in the distance. I don't know where we are, said Jack. The pterodon glided down to the base of the tree. It landed on the ground and stood very still. So, what just happened to us? Said Annie. Well, said Jack, I was looking at the picture in the book, and you said, wow, I wish we could go to the time of the pterodons, said Annie. Yeah, and then I forgot the pterodon in Frog Creek Woods, said Jack. Yeah, and then the wind got loud and the tree house started spinning, said Annie. And then we landed here, said Jack. And then we landed here, said Annie. So that means, said Jack. So that means what, said Annie. I don't know, said Jack. He shook his head. None of this can be real. Annie looked out the window. But he's real, she said. He's very real. Jack looked out the window with her again. The pterodon was standing at the base of the tree like a guard. His giant wings were spread out on either side of him. Hi, Annie shouted. Shh, said Jack. We're not supposed to be here. But where is here? Said Annie. I don't know, said Jack. Hi, who are you? Annie called to the pterodon. The creature just looked up at her. Are you nuts? He can't talk, said Jack. But maybe the book can tell us. Jack looked down at the book and he read the words under the picture. This flying reptile lived in the Cretaceous period. It vanished 65 million years ago with the dinosaurs. That's impossible, said Jack. We can't have gone to a time 65 million years ago. Jack, said Annie. He's nice. Nice, said Jack. Yeah, I can tell, said Annie. Let's go down to him. Go down, said Jack. Annie started down the rope ladder. Hey, come back here, said Jack. But Annie kept going. Annie, wait, Jack called. Annie dropped to the ground and she stepped boldly up to the ancient creature. Here's Annie dropping down. Chapter 4. Jack gasped as Annie reached her hand out toward the pterodon. Oh no, he thought. Annie's always trying to make friends with animals, but this is going too far. Don't get too close to him, Annie, Jack shouted. Annie touched the pterodon's crest. She stroked his neck. She was talking to him. What in the world was she saying? Jack wondered. He took a deep breath. Okay, he would go down too. It would be good to examine a pterodon. He could take notes like a scientist. Jack started down the rope ladder. When he reached the ground, he was only a few feet away from the creature. The pterodon stared at Jack. His eyes were bright and alert. He's soft, Jack, said Annie. He feels like Henry. Jack snorted. He's no dog, Annie. Feel him, Jack, said Annie. Jack didn't move. Don't think, Jack, just do it, Annie said. Jack stepped forward. He reached out very cautiously. He brushed his hand down the creature's neck. Interesting, thought Jack. A thin layer of fuzz covered the pterodon's skin. Soft, huh? Said Annie. Jack reached to his backpack and pulled out a pencil and a notebook. He wrote, "Fuzzy skin." "What are you doing?" asked Annie. "Taking notes," said Jack. "We're probably the first people in the whole world to ever see a real live pterodon." Jack looked at the pterodon again. The bony crest on top of his head was longer than Jack's arm. "I wonder how smart he is," Jack said. "Very smart," said Annie. "Don't count on it," said Jack. "His brain's probably no bigger than a bean." "No, he's very smart. I can feel it," said Annie. "I'm going to call him Henry." Jack wrote in his notebook, "Small brain?" Here's a picture of them. Jack looked at the creature again. "Maybe he's a mutant," he said. The pterodon tilted his head. Annie laughed. "He's not a mutant," Jack said. "Well, what he's doing right here, right in this place." Annie leaned close to the pterodon. "Do you know where we are, Henry?" she asked softly. The creature fixed his eyes on Annie. His long jaws were opening and closing like a pair of scissors. "Are you trying to talk to me, Henry?" asked Annie. "Forget it, Annie," Jack wrote in his notebook. "Mouth like scissors." "Did we come to a long time ago, Henry?" asked Annie. "Is this place a long time ago?" Suddenly, Annie gasped, "Jack!" Jack looked up. Annie was pointing toward the hill. On top stood a huge dinosaur. Wow. Can you imagine seeing a dinosaur? Let's read one more chapter. Chapter 5, Gold in the Grass. "Go, go," said Jack. He threw his notebook in his pack. He rushed past Annie toward the rope ladder. "Bye, Henry," she said. "Go," said Jack. He gave Annie another push. "Quit it," she said as she started up the ladder. Jack scrambled after her. Jack and Annie tumbled into the treehouse. They were panting as they looked out the window at the dinosaur. It was standing on the hilltop, eating flowers off a tree. "Oh man," whispered Jack. "We are in a long time ago." The dinosaur looked like a huge rhinoceros with 3 horns instead of 1. It had 2 long horns above its eyes and another one that grew out from its nose. It was a big shield-like thing on top of its head. "Triceratops," said Jack. "Does he eat people?" whispered Annie. "I'll look it up." Jack grabbed the dinosaur book. He flipped through the pages. "There," said Jack, pointing to the picture of a Triceratops. He read the caption. "The Triceratops lived in the late Cretaceous period. This plant-eating dinosaur weighed over 12,000 pounds. Jack slammed the book shut. "Just plants, no meat." "Good," said Annie. "Let's go see him up close." "Are you crazy?" said Jack. "You don't want to take notes about him?" asked Annie. "You're probably the first person in the whole world to ever see a real live Triceratops." Jack sighed. Annie was right. Jack shoved the dinosaur book into his pack. He slung his pack over his shoulder. Annie started down the ladder, and Jack followed her. "Just promise you won't pet him," Jack called down to Annie. "I promise," she said. "Promise you won't kiss him," said Jack. "I promise," said Annie. "Promise you won't talk to him." "I promise," said Annie. "Promise you won't." "Don't worry," said Annie. Jack and Annie stepped off the ladder. The pterodon gave them a friendly look. Annie blew him a kiss. "We'll be right back, Henry," she called. "Shh," said Jack. He led the way slowly and carefully through the ferns. When Jack and Annie reached the bottom of the hill, they knelt behind a bush. Annie started to speak, but Jack quickly put his fingers to his lips. Then he and Annie peeked out at the Triceratops. The dinosaur was bigger than a truck. He was eating flowers off a magnolia tree. Jack slipped the notebook out of his pack. He wrote, "Eats flowers." Annie nudged him. Jack ignored her, and he studied the Triceratops again. He wrote, "Eat slowly." Annie nudged him harder. Jack looked at her. Annie pointed to herself. She walked her fingers through the air, and she pointed to the dinosaur. She smiled. Is she teasing? Jack wondered. Annie waved at Jack. Jack started to grab her. She laughed and jumped away. She fell into the grass in full view of the Triceratops. "Get back," whispered Jack. Too late. The big dinosaur had spotted Annie. He grazed down from the hilltop. Half of a magnolia flower was sticking out its mouth. "Get back," Jack said again. And the Triceratops gazed down at Annie. "Bye," said Annie. She turned back to Jack. "See?" And he wrote in his notebook, "Nice." "Come on, let's get another look around," said Jack. Jack started after Annie, and he saw something glittering in the tall grass. Jack reached down, picked it up, and it was a gold medallion with the letter M. "Oh man, someone's been here before us," Jack said softly. Let's stop there, friends. Isn't this book so wonderful? I can't wait till next week so we can read a little bit more. Thanks for reading at my library today, and have a great rest of your